Navigating through the energies of New Earth is not an easy process and can become extremely overwhelming at times. As we all ascend into higher frequencies, we're all being guided to embrace our own unique divine pathway, a pathway created in the vibration of love. Join Vibe Nation radio host, international psychic medium Carrie Turcotte, as she guides her listeners to rediscover themselves by accessing the keys of knowledge that already exist within. Each week's show is divinely orchestrated to intertwine with the universal energies, allowing the listeners to go deeper within and understand the message being shared even greater. When you live in the frequency of love, there is no competition, so Carrie will be joined regularly by fellow soul family members who will bring forth wisdom and knowledge she knows should be shared on a global level. At the end of each show, Carrie will tap into the energies of the listeners to see what message Spirit wants to share with all those listening in for the upcoming week. If you really want to get to know who you truly are, come and join us now on Vibe Nation Radio, here on the IOM Radio Network.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to another edition of Vibe Nation Radio, where today on this beautiful Monday here in Toronto, the sun is shining. It's a little chilly outside, but what a perfect day to start the last Mercury Retrograde of the year. And going out to just get a little bit of refreshment, to reflect on what's happening. And those that follow Vibe Nation Radio on a regular basis, you know that we love to go with the energies of what's taking place. And it was very interesting how I came up with today's guest, because I was sitting there going, okay, Spirit, what's going on? Who do you want me to bring in? And David Furlong, who's our special guest today, who's an executive life coach, popped into my head. I was like, okay. So I called David because I've known him for a long time, and I just said, how's it going? And we started to talk, and now he's talking about, working with people about how to tap into your soul's purpose. And I thought, how beautiful is that? That's why Spirit asked me to call you, because you have such an important message, and it's the beginning of the last retrograde of 2016, and it's the last retrograde of this energy decade that we have, because this is a year 9 of completion. So next year we start a new decade of energy starting in year 1. So this year's retrograde is even that much more powerful, because it's really asking you to go within and reflect who you are. So I'm really excited to introduce you all to David. David, are you there, my dear friend?
I am here, Barry. So great to be here.
Thank you for joining me, David. I really appreciate it. And, I think it's important that some of the people that are listening in understand that, you and I came from the event industry a long time ago.
Yes.
and we had a lot of fun. And, it's kind of interesting, because those that are now on the spiritual path, it was almost like we had an issue connection when we met, back 15, 16 years ago when we were in the event industry. And I remember we used to go out and we used to party and stuff, but we were kind of like, as much as we could be partiers, we always kind of needed to be our own by ourselves. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
To see that now, it's beautiful to see how, so far back, even those that were solely connected, instantly connected, and how, here we are 15 years later, and we're on Vibe Nation Radio, and I'm so grateful that you agreed to come on, because I think it's a beautiful story.
It's quite the evolution when you think about it, going from the event industry to taking on the calling that we have now.
Yes.
And it's interesting, because it seems like even when we're producing events, at least my experience, I'm sure you feel the same way, is that I always wanted to uplift people through events. Hence one of the reasons I got into that industry. And so it seemed like a sort of a natural next step to take that to another level of experience.
Yes. And I think that your story itself about how you have become this executive life coach is also very important, because this is about your journey and how you found your purpose and how you're taking your soul's purpose to help others find their own soul's purpose.
Yeah, would you like me to share that?
Please, that would be beautiful.
Okay. So as a kid, I had a learning disability in sequencing. It's called sequencing dyslexia. And so with dyslexia, people put things backwards. And with sequencing dyslexia, it's mixing things up. So formulas, grammar, science, mathematics. I didn't quite, I would do the third thing first instead of the first. But what was interesting about it it caused a lot of troubles. I had like a 30% average in grade 9. I had tutors to get me through. I was told I didn't have the mental capacity to ever attend university. And, so for one thing through another, I ended up going to university as an adult student. And from that day forward, I've never really accepted that something can't be done. But what was interesting is almost like sometimes the greatest obstacles become your greatest gifts, in that, with because of this particular learning disability, I had to learn to vision, because I couldn't put things down on paper, but I could visualize things. And so in going into the event industry, which is all about sequencing, you have to have a stage before you can have a band, and there's thousands and thousands of details, as you know. But what I could do is I could visualize the events and play them out exactly the way I saw them in my mind, but put them in reality, sometimes up to 16,000 people over a number of days. And so now I find with the purpose is that you're creating a vision for your clients to live into and to move forward. So it's interesting how sometimes you can't foresee something. It's almost like the gentleman who created Apple. Everybody knows his name well. What's his name?
I have no idea.
Steve Jobs.
I'm in a zone. But anyways.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Steve Jobs, who created Apple, pretty brilliant man, said that you can never connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking back, because there were certain courses that he took. Like he dropped out of university and dropped into a couple of courses. And in those courses, he learned about calligraphy and sans serif fonts. And that's what became the Mac computer originally. Was he wanted to take simple letters and make them into something else. And it's why we have the Mac today. But if he hadn't taken those courses, that would have never got created. So it's amazing how sometimes these things that seem irrelevant become relevant as you move forward with purpose.
Absolutely. And that is so true. And now you transitioned from the event industry, and then you did a lot of humanitarian work and, with public speaking and stuff. I saw you around in the industry.
Yeah, I created a non-for-profit. It was my big awakening was 9/11, where it was such a tragic day for so many people, and it was a real dark time in my life. And I found myself a week later I was a director at this organization, and I went into my boss's office and quit and spent 3 months traveling through Australia to find myself. I didn't know at the time that was related to my life purpose, or that I was searching for that. But what it did is it started this quest, and I just kept feeling called to do things. And so I created an organization called Idea Nation to inspire and connect and support people who wanted to build social change projects in their communities. And so I got involved in a lot of those things, or chairing galas for hospital foundations and things of that nature. But I kept reinventing myself. So every 2 years, I call it shiny object syndrome now, where I kept getting caught up with the latest, greatest thing, and I would drop what I was up to. I wouldn't see it to fruition sometimes, or I'd, blow it up. We all have our self-sabotage ways of doing things. But from doing that, I literally reinvented myself, must have been 10 times. Everything in politics, to working for agencies, to building an agency, to working with authors and TV personalities and the nonprofit. So, it was just a lot of work, a lot of energy and resources and money. And I think it's partly why I do what I do today, is because I don't want people to suffer the way that I chose to suffer, going through this on my own without a guide over and over and over again. And I just wish to God that I'd had somebody to work with like myself or yourself, way back when. It would have saved me a lot of time, energy, and money, for sure.
Yeah, I laugh about that because it's true. But we have to call ourselves we're the warrior, the frontiers. We're the ones that chose to walk into this new earth blinded. No one was holding our hand, but through the experiences that we've created over the last 10, 15, 20 years, depending on how long you've been on your journey, we have become these warriors to be able to shine the light, because in order to help others, you have to experience it. So, it's beautiful to see that, like myself, like, what am I doing? What am I going to be when I grow up? And we keep reinventing who we are. And now I'm running into people the same way, that they're looking for their soul's purpose, or what am I meant to do, or what am I meant to be? And, to know that I've been through that journey, and something that might have taken me 8 years to go down, we can help them on the express train and get them through maybe 8 months. I mean, you still have time that you have to work and put into yourself, but you're being directed in the right way. You don't keep veering off the track to go somewhere else because of that big shiny thing. Like, oh, look, that's shiny. Let's go over there.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that, with the energies that they are, and I know that I've been channeling, this is a week that we really need to listen to higher self, to what higher self is saying, because, again, we're going into the retrograde, and then we've also got the solstice that's coming up. We also have another new moon coming up, and we're going into a very scripted time of the year where people are being asked, depending on, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, we're all going through a solstice. So it's either summer solstice or winter solstice, depending where you are. But this is a time to be able to go in and reflect who you are and plant the seeds of where you want to be when it comes to the equinox, right? So what a perfect timing to be talking to people about tapping into their soul's purpose. And I know we're about to go to a commercial break shortly, so I don't want to get too deep into this next subject, but when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about the power of the purpose and why people are not always living their purpose, and, just give people understanding that there is no right or wrong to your soul's journey. Your soul's going to take you where you need to go. And like David said, you might see something as life-altering blowing up in your face, but at the end of the day, it actually happens for a reason, to allow you to shine at the end of the day. So stay tuned, my friends, and we'll be back right after the commercial break. Stay tuned.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Have you been searching for a perspective beyond the mainstream? Check it out. Join your hosts Cielito Pascual and Diana Gold Holland on Share International Radio for thought-provoking views behind the news, Sundays at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio. You can also find us at shareontheairradio.org. This may be the message of hope you've been waiting for.
How to be a great dad in 15 seconds. Bike ride, go fish, walk in the park, phone call, milkshake, play catch, picnic, fly a kite, tell jokes, laugh, talk, read a story, tell a story, bumper car, swing set, bowling, pillow fight, cut loose, stay tight. Whew. Because the smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Vibe Nation Radio, where today my special guest is David Furlong, who is an executive life coach, and we're talking about tapping into your soul's purpose. And in the last segment, we were just explaining how our soul purpose for the both of us, how it's been pulling us here and there. And David, I'd really like to talk a little bit further about the power of purpose and the power of one soul purpose. So please, go ahead, my friend, and share your magical words.
Thank you. Well, it's interesting. In working with well over 100 people now on, through a particular process that I developed, you gain insights from it. Because originally when I started working as a coach, I didn't quite know what I was doing. It felt like I was kind of sprinkling magic dust and, cool things were happening. And as I got more and more into it, it was like trying to figure out, okay, well, what is actually going on here? And what I saw was, living a life of purpose is an amazing experience. When you're in the flow of life, when you're in the light, when you're aligned with your values and your strengths and your belief system, and everything is congruent. It's amazing where it gets created. And I think what happens how we get off track is one of three things, and I'll go into sort of a little bit of detail with two of them. I believe it's fear and conditioning that stops us from actually being in alignment with who we know ourselves to be. And so for fear, it's, I'm sure if I ask the audience, is that, fear will kill more dreams than anything else. And if we asked them, have you ever been stopped by fear? I'm sure they would say yes. And so that seems to be one of the things. And it sort of starts out, like, especially when it comes in the area of career, is that you'll be cruising along and then you'll be given a choice. And you can either take one choice that would keep you in alignment or another choice that would be based on fear, like scarcity or fear of looking bad or fear that you're going to screw up or whatever it happens to be. And so you choose the safer route. But the problem is it gets you off alignment. For me, it was, I remember I always wanted to go to law school. And so even though I was told I could never go to, university and I ended up going, I remember I'd even taken a 4-year program in public administration to get me into law school. And a friend of mine was writing the LSAT, the exam for the entrance to law school. And I remember picking up the training books and looking at the various exam questions. And it was full of reasoning skills, which I sucked at. It was full of formulas, which I wasn't very good at. And literally in those 5 minutes, I decided that there's no way I can make it in law school, and never even tried. And so that's one of the big things, I think, with fear, how that sort of, how that plays out.
Yes.
So that's
I see that quite often as well.
So the other thing I think is conditioning, where whether it's your parents, your teachers, media, we all have it the way we're supposed to be living. And these conditionings set up our values and everything else, these preconceived notions of how something should be or how we should be mainly. And because we start following other people's values and we start following other people's what we think people want us to do, not necessarily what we want, it gets us in trouble again because you're not really standing up for who you know yourself to be and going after what you want. You're trying to please people. You're trying to be liked. You're trying all these other things that are actually getting you further away from what you're meant to do. And then ego, always trying to prove something is another piece of it. But what happens is that what I've seen is that as people are not living, if we had visualized a line that's going up on an angle, and you've got a line kind of squiggling going downwards, as the people are continually making choices that are keeping them away from their purpose, maybe it's to make money or whatever it is, the reason they're doing it, is they're not fulfilled and they're not necessarily happy. I've got clients that are millionaires and they're miserable because they're not on purpose. And so what I find happens if people don't get support from people like us is that they have to have some kind of massive wake-up call, which is a tragedy, a car crash that they live, or they cancer or something sort of horrific that they have to deal with that wakes them up, and then it's a massive struggle to get back on purpose, but they do it extremely quickly. And I think those are the motivational speakers that say, I was in this car crash and I'm now alive. They reconnect with their family members. They quit their jobs. They start making radical changes. And listen, that is one approach. But why have to wait until you have to have that massive tragic wake-up call to change your life when you could be doing it in a very guided, beautiful, loving way. Because I truly believe transformation, it's interesting. Like, if you're, same as me, it's like transformation was not easy. It was a 15-year thing, suffered greatly, beat myself up to death, and now being able to, bring somebody in a couple of months in a very beautiful, loving, guided way to have the realizations they need to, get back on track and plant the seeds for what they want in their lives, can be very short and painless. And that's where I focus my energies now, because, as I said, and similar before, and we were talking, was there's just so much suffering going on, and it's so unnecessary. And if you're like me, is that if we can contribute our lives to supporting people and living great lives, it's extremely fulfilling for us. So those are a couple of things that I wanted to kind of point out as far as how people get off track and why more people aren't on purpose. And then finally, if I can just say, is that what people do is they pretend that they're okay with the way they're living their life, but they're not. So they numb themselves. They turn to drugs, alcohol, porn, gambling, games. Wait until virtual reality really takes off. We're going to lose a lot of people that way. But it's because they're just not happy with themselves, and so they have to numb themselves to the reality. 10% over, I think, 20 million people in the United States alone, and Canada's not far off, are on antidepressants. Like, why is 10% of the population, and kids as well are dealing with this? Is why is this free country, capitalistic, beautiful society where you can have anything? There's so much misery. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yes. And again, we're going through a mass awakening, which you obviously are aware of, and those that are listening, that, we are just tipping or scratching the surface with people on this planet starting to wake up. And people like yourself and myself that like to go in and work with people to say, okay, let's work with your energy. Let me guide the way for you. It's like we can open up the door, but we're there to open the door and hold it for them as they're walking through the door, because the person who's doing the work obviously has to do it themselves. But a big point that you brought up, David, was about, your perspective. And, I teach personality traits. I've been doing that forever. And that's a big part of it, that when you understand who you are as a soul and who other people are, you accept them for who they are. And if you feel like somebody's a broken bird, you can try and fix the broken bird, but the broken bird needs to be able to fix itself first before you can help them. And I think this is all about, again, this goes into the bigger picture of the law of allowing, that you need to allow others to be who they are and allow yourself to be who you are. So don't allow somebody else's perspective to change the kaleidoscope of where you're going in life, because too many people will have that kaleidoscope when they wake up in the morning, and by the end of the day, it's a completely different picture because of what everybody else has said. I see that very
absolutely. And the idea of the broken bird or wing or whatever it happens to be, it's I want to come from a place that we're all these beautiful children of God. We are perfect in every way, and there's so much untapped inside of us that's just waiting to be unleashed on the world. Use those natural gifts and be expressed, and it's really disheartening to see people. You can see it. It's like you can see what they're capable of, and they're just not owning it. And because they were beaten down by whatever, and it's really sad to see.
It is. And I mean, you and I see this all too often, where people come to us and they've been, they feel like they've been used and abused and beaten up in this. And I had someone in my living room the other day, and I was doing a reading with him, and I could feel his energy as soon as he walked into my house. And I was like, whoa, I could tell he's been through a lot. And he just went through one of those mass awakenings in a very, very dramatic, like life-altering, changing moments. Like, I was like, wow. But he understood why he went through it, because he had to wake up, and he took his time waking up. And because Spirit was like, we need you now to wake up, they threw him into this horrific event, and it woke him up. Like, boom, he saw the light.
Wow.
And just to see him in my house, and he came in, and I swear when he left, he was like a Christmas tree. because he understood that everything that he'd been picking up was truth because I was picking up on it, right? So his soul was calling out to him and his loved ones were calling out to help him. But again, here's a gentleman who has been put into a certain category per se by society, and he can't be the person he truly wants to be because society says this is the type of person you should be. And this is the type of thing I'm finding that we all have to step out of the box and step out of our comfort zone and be who we truly are, knowing that when you shine your light, the light shines back at you and people will love you for who you truly are.
Absolutely. Yeah. Beautiful.
So now we're going to be going to commercial break in a few minutes again. So I don't want to get into giving them some tools to be able to help themselves with this. So, you know, I feel in some way that, again, you have so much wisdom and knowledge in you, David. Please just share whatever you feel you need to guide to the listeners right now.
Well, I think, you know, we live in, you know, there's, how do I put this? Sometimes people can be living in the clouds. And we do live in a certain kind of reality that has a certain kind of structure. We live in a capitalistic system. And so when it comes to career or these types of things, is that I believe you have to marry the passion and the purpose with something that people will value. Because if you build something that isn't relevant, you know, because I've bootstrapped tech startups. I've been involved in startups most of my life.
Yeah.
And you're either ahead of the curve, meaning you're so far into the future that there's not a demand for what you're offering, or you're behind the curve, right? I almost want to call it like a perfect wave, because I've worked with companies where it's like they're literally surfing the wave as it's happening, and that's where they can kind of roll and with the momentum. And so it's really important to validate the idea, right? So it's like it's coming up with, like, so for instance, I had a client who was a lawyer, and she'd been practicing law for 5 years, didn't enjoy it, had been through 3 different firms, and she didn't know if she wanted to stay in law or do something different. And when I asked her what had you go into law in the first place, she said she had a conversation with one of her professors at school, thought this is something she'd be good at, and then decided that's what she was going to do. And, you know, but she didn't do a lot of research. She didn't go talk to a bunch of lawyers and find out what it's really like. And so I think it's really critical that, you know, the 2 things is that they, you know, that you validate what you're wanting to create before you go and create it. But the other piece of it is that in marrying the 2 together, your purpose with something that's actually, you know, can generate income, because it's very, you know, obviously very critical to success in life, is that with this particular individual, we found that she loves museum studies. That's what she truly wanted to do. But we thought, instead of going back to school and spending a lot of money and starting at the ground floor again, what else could we do from a strategic perspective, thinking outside the box, that would allow her to work in museums but still practice law? And so we moved her into reinsurance, and now she actually works directly with the museums. And she didn't have to give up her paycheck. So it was really about, you know, connecting those 2 dots.
Awesome. So when we return, my friends, David and I will be continuing talking about tapping into your soul's purpose. Stay tuned. We'll be right back at the commercial break.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio, IOM FM. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Eros Evolution is where sexuality and spirituality meets. Join me, clinical sexologist Martha Tara Lee, on Eros Evolution on Thursdays, 4 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
When Dad needed help getting around, I became his driver. Soon enough, it was up to me to be his housekeeper and financial manager, too. When he moved in, I became his cook and even his nurse. But no matter what roles I play, I know I'm still his daughter.
We understand the roles you play. So to help, we created aarp.org/caregiving, where you can connect with experts and other caregivers. Visit aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Vibe Nation Radio, where today my special guest, David Furlong, who's an executive life coach, is talking about tapping into your soul's purpose. And just before we went to the commercial break, you were talking about the marriage. And I think that's really cool how you created that, like that little saying about, you're connecting dogs and creating that marriage. So thank you for sharing that with listeners.
My pleasure.
So what would you like to share with regards to allowing those that are listening in to help them discover their own life purpose?
It's a journey, and as you said earlier on, it's about self-awareness and self-discovery, because it's difficult but people mainly will work with me is because they're looking for clarity. They don't know what exactly that thing is that they want to do, and at the same time, if they knew it, would they have the confidence to actually go and make it happen? And so it's usually the clarity and confidence piece is really critical for them. So in looking at your own life purpose, I mean, there's many things that I do within my work. You talked about personality types. So that's a way of building an awareness. Understanding your values, not the values that you think you have, like, oh, I should be a nice person and integrity, but your true values. Where do you spend most of your time and your energy and your money and your resources are usually the things you value a lot. And when you're not in connection with those values and you're trying to live from somebody else's values, that's what creates the upset. Because it was actually, I think, John Martini, I read a book on values, and it was interesting. He'd said that, and he'd done a lot of research around this, is that when people try to live by somebody else's values and not their own, and they don't fulfill on it, because it's kind of like we're just so easy at beating ourselves up, as humans, part of the human conditioning in some respects, is that when we try to live by somebody else's values and we don't live up to it, let's say our parent wants us to do a certain thing or whatever, and you put it on your list, but it never gets done, and you don't get angry or upset with the people that have given you that thing. You get mad at yourself. You beat yourself up because you're like, well, I'm not good enough, clearly. And what's interesting about that is that it has nothing to do with that. It's just you don't care enough. It's not something you value enough. And so when you actually value something, you achieve it. It's like, for instance, if you own a home, you somehow figure out how to pay your mortgage. You somehow figure out how to pay your rent, because it matters to have a roof over your head. But these things that don't matter that much to you, that you're lying to yourself that do, that never get done, just creates all these problems. And that's why I think it's really critical as far as discovering your life purpose, is really understanding your true values and living by them, because that's what will lead to a satisfying and fulfilling life. So values is really critical. Another big thing, I think, is belief. People don't believe they can achieve certain things. I remember there was, it was Clemens, or sorry, I'm terrible with names, is that what the mind of man can conceive and believe he can achieve. Now, obviously that was a long time ago, and we like to include women in that. But it's interesting that what the mind can conceive and be willing to believe can achieve is that it takes, the mind is a powerful thing. And, when we can get out of this idea of belief that, oh, I'm not good enough and well, I can't really do that, I find a lot of work that I do with my clients is changing their belief system. And then they start actually going out and making it happen, and they're really surprised. But the president JFK, in I don't know, the 60s said, we're going to put a man on the moon within 10 years. And that's what they achieved. So it's amazing, when you can get through that. So first of all, was the values, and then the second thing is belief. So, and I think these are really, critical pieces, and understanding your strengths. And as I said, I think that a lot of your past experiences, like I was at a client who's actually become a very well-known artist now, and he was an executive at a consumer electronics company. And, in making that transition, at first he thought I was a charlatan. Like, who am I to believe that I could paint, right? And slowly but surely that belief has been changed where he's, and then other people now see him as the expert, and now he's in all sorts of different galleries and he's doing extremely well. But it took that shift for him to be able to get to where he wants to go.
And it's interesting that you're talking about, because we're breaking those templates of you have to, like, this is the way it is, and the only way that is, this is the belief patterns that we're breaking and creating new ones to say, follow your soul, follow your passion, follow your purpose. So, and this is a perfect time of the year. Again, we're being asked to go within and reflect and be truthful with ourselves. Again, like, when you were talking about, finding your strengths, and, this is, again, you need to accept your strengths, knowing that, if you understand, I teach color, so a lot of people know this, that, if your strength is one thing and then there's somebody that's in your life and their strengths are the opposite of yours and your weaknesses are their strengths, it allows you to appreciate them for who they are because, again, that's who they are, so it's important that people remember this over the holidays, that, and people are, people have changed. People are not the same person they were last year. People change by the day. So allow your soul to just give the love to these people, because some people might be waking up right now, my friends, and might not be in a very good place by going in now and focusing on the good, or, I love your hair, or, give me that nice big hug that you're always good at giving. I mean, these are little things you can do to help light someone up over the holidays.
Yeah, and it's from that perspective, I think, it's karma in a way, right? It's whatever you're going to put out will come back to you. And it's interesting because that can be tied in, so many things that can be tied into purpose, but it's, another thing is the idea of what I'll do with the clients is I'll challenge them to go off and do that thing that they fear or whatever else is going on. But then when they start seeing the rewards coming back, because I find that as you continually put stuff out there, stuff's going to come back, right? So it's like, for instance, even doing this radio program with you, right? Like, who knows what could get created out of this? And if I had fear of like, oh my God, I don't know if I should be on radio, I don't want to screw up, and I cancel, which I used to do. Like when I was younger, I used to get invited to speak at things. I was really, super excited to be a part of something, but then fear would grip me and I'd want to throw up, and I'd always cancel the last minute and really upset people. But it was it's almost like, in listening to the introduction around being light, is that it's I almost look at it now where it's like that fear that stops me from fulfilling my dreams, because it actually stops you from fulfilling your dreams, it's the darkness. It's the darkness in me that, okay, fine, you have to balance these things out, but now I kind of go, I'm on to you. I'm not going to let you take me down. And then, and continually just keep saying yes and being more in alignment with my true nature and self and self-expression. Because you're absolutely right about the truth, is that it's kind of like, know thyself and thyself be true. Right? Like, if it's whether or not it's around the holidays with loved ones, especially as we're coming into the holidays, I don't, I still, get a little triggered by certain people in the family over certain things. And I just have to keep reminding myself and being aware that it's like, okay, they're where they're at. Yeah. It's all good.
Yeah, we're not going
and
we're not going to have a showdown during the holidays and get guns out and start triggering one another.
No, it's actually going to increase that intensity. which is a good thing, right? It's kind of like the rite of passage, or what is it called when you go through? Rite of passage. And that it's as we learn to transcend these things and continually move forward. But as you say, it's really being your true self. And what is that really? And I think 90% of the world doesn't know who they really are. And I think it's why some people will say, as they get further and further out of alignment with who they, what they could be, and they're being letting the conditioning and the fear and the ego and everything else sort of control things, is that they wake up one day and say, I don't know who I am. And I think that's why they say that, is because they're so far off the reservation, so far off who they're really meant to be, that they're struggling. They're struggling, day to day. And I just see it so much. People taking sleeping pills, or can't sleep at night, or all that stuff. And what's amazing, and I think why we feel called to do what we're doing, is that it's not that it's a magic pill, but it's amazing when people get on purpose. They start making more money, and even sometimes making less money. I don't want to create any disillusion, but they're happy. Maybe they're making $250,000 as a senior executive, but they lost all their hair. That's what happened to me, and all the other health problems that ensued. But they're now making half or even less, but they're really happy because they realize they don't need a Mercedes, they don't need the big house, and in fact, those things cause headaches. And some people can handle it. Some people are millionaires and everything works out well. But I think it's a disillusion to think, it's like if I'm purpose, I'm going to be broke. No, and you may not make $1 million. I think you can only bring out of you what's in you, right, to the level of what it is, then sort of help you take yourself to the next game. But at the same time, it's that I think it's really critical to understand that.
Yes, it's very interesting, and let's see, there we go, right on perfect timing. So when we get back, my friends, I will do the weekly reading, and we'll continue on with tapping into your soul's purpose with David Furlong. We'll be right back after commercial break.
Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
Dr. Kevin here, and I want to invite you every Thursday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, to join me on the Dr. Kevin Show, where we have a diversity of guests who help you step outside the box, behind the curtain, and see what a load of crap is going on in the world today, so you have more information with which to make better decisions. We'll see you there. Namaste.
Hello, I'm John Lithgow. Manatees are unique, among the most amazing animals on Earth, but they're endangered. We pose the greatest threat to their survival. Many manatees are killed or injured by boats or other recreational activities. I'm a writer of children's books, including one about manatees, and I believe education is the key. You can be part of the solution. Please contact Save the Manatee Club right now. Call 1-800-432-JOIN. Thank you.
Welcome back to Vibe Nation Radio, where today my special guest is David Furlong, who is an executive life coach. And we've been talking about tapping into your soul's purpose. And this is a time where I sit here with Spirit, and they give a message to those that are listening in about what's coming up this week. And Spirit just wants to remind people, once again, we are in a Mercury Retrograde. So this is a time to go within and focus on they're almost saying that there's going to be a lot of fun that's going to happen in people's lives, but it's going to be that comes out of nowhere. Like it's going to, like someone calls you up and says, you want to get together for coffee. They're saying go. Do these little fun adventures that come up, because there's a lot of people that are putting too much energy into the chaos of what's taking place on this planet. And again, if we're here to help shed the light and illuminate others with the love and light starts within you. So Spirit wants you to have fun and enjoy yourself and go out and love life, knowing that we are being given an opportunity right now to really go in, reflect who we truly are, and to let go of things that we don't think are fair. Like if somebody's like, oh, it's not fair this is happening, see the bigger picture, my friends, to why this is taking place, because it's creating justice for you. And Spirit is saying that a lot of people are going to put a lot of closures to a lot of things over the next couple of weeks because this is a retrograde. But it's because we're now standing up with adversity for ourselves and focusing on what we truly desire and starting this new beginning. And it's almost like they're saying people are going to be able to shut the monkeys off. So the mind that's yapping, this is a perfect time to, again, go into soul solitude and reinvent who you are, to bring that balance into your life, because Spirit is saying, get out the spiritual toolkit, my friends. Start focusing on spiritual, whatever you have in your spiritual toolbox. A lot of people are forgetting about that, or that, you need to stop and ground yourself. If you're having a frantic day and it's getting chaotic wherever you are, go outside and take a deep breath and just breathe for 30 seconds. Be aware of your breath, knowing that this is a time where we can come together with strength and love to shine this on Gaia to help Mother Earth and all of humanity, because again, we're going from an end of a year as well as a year of completion into a year of new foundations, into a new energy. But again, we have to create the new foundation. And how do we do this in the new world, my friends? Is by focusing on the vibration of love and laying that love down to help all of those that are waking up so that they too can get tapped into their purpose and follow their passion to where they need to go. So, David, would you like to put something onto that message that Spirit just gave through?
Beautifully said. I really don't have anything to share. I think that what you said was perfect.
Well, thank you. You got to love Spirit when they're like, let's talk about this purpose again. And, David, if you want to give the listeners, where can they find you? Are you on Facebook? What's your website? Let the listeners know where they can find you.
Well, my website's audaciousresults.com, AUDACIOUS. And what's interesting is I built the company because audacious means to be bold and be fearless and be unstoppable. And I felt that would, sort of call me or force me to continually produce audacious results with everybody I work with. And so it's been an amazing journey. But that's where they can find me. I have a Facebook page, Audacious Results, as well on Facebook. And but those are the two main places.
Okay, and I know that you have a very special gift for all of those that are listening in for the Vibe Nation radio clients. You've got a special, I think you said?
Yeah, so, it was interesting. I work with people one-on-one over a 3 or 6 month period. And what they've been able to achieve has been really quite miraculous. But at the same time, there are lots of people that can't afford the normal program. And I was always going, geez, I want to do more, but how can I do it? And so I decided to create a group program. I haven't actually officially launched it. I haven't even talked about it. This is the first place that I'm talking about it. And what I want to do is offer the listeners a very special offer, because it's a launch and it's my first group program. And I'll have to, send them the details. But to apply, they can email me. But basically it'll be a 90-day group program, and when it first launches, it'll be probably $997. And so I'm doing it for $397 because it's as much a learning experience for me as them. And but I'm also including 2 hours from me, which would normally be about $650. So the price of the program would be less than what it takes, because to do some of that deeper work and to make sure nobody falls behind, I want to make sure that they're taken care of, especially the first group. And then I'll throw in a bunch of bonuses. But it'll be a group program, group calls, some Q&As, some assignments, and things of that nature. But if they are interested, they can email me at david@audaciousresults.com, and I'll send them an application and then some materials on the program to see if it's something that that they're a good fit for.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. That's really cool that you're launching that with us, and that, my friends, he's a beautiful soul. I've known David for a long time, and this is a time for us to all give back. And if anybody is looking for an actual reading for themselves or someone else, and it could be just an Align Your Vibes reading where I just tap into your energy and I help you get aligned with yourself, or if you want to communicate with loved ones in spirit, because this is a time where people start to miss their loved ones in spirit, but we all know that love never dies. So if you purchase 2 or more readings, you get 15% off. Or if you purchase 3 or more readings, you'll actually get 20% off. So you can go to CarrieTurcott.com. And again, the information that David shared is there under Vibe Nation Radio. So you can get David and myself on one website. So any last words that you'd like to share with everyone, David, about, tapping into your soul's purpose, regarding the retrograde or the holidays, and just little words of wisdom?
I think before we started the show, we were chatting and we were talking about how this is not a good time to start things, right? It's January is when it's a good time to start because of the retrograde. And I was reflecting. I just made a move, and the day I was getting the Cube van, I was running and lost my wallet, and then somebody started using the credit cards. That day, and then I got a storage locker, and then I lost the key to the storage locker, and so, but I didn't let anything stop me, right? Like, it was like, okay, well, how do I get in my storage locker? Okay, well, that's simple. Just get some bolt cutters and cut the thing off. And so if I can leave them with anything, is don't let these little things overwhelm you or stop you from what you're wanting to create, because they're really small blips. And so instead of making them more than they are, you can actually just go out and do what needs to be done. In the case of, the wallet, I went and got everything replaced the next day. In the case of the bolt, I went back to, the trucking company and asked for bolt cutters and went and cut the lock in 30 seconds. And so that's the only thing I really can say, is that the idea is don't let these little things, get to you. They're small in the bigger picture, and they don't really mean anything anyway. So, embrace your, it's pour love on yourself during this retrograde, and be ready in the new year to really create who you truly are.
Yes, and that's what the big reason I always say to people: respond, do not react. Because if you react, again, it's the little things. It's just like the other night. I got a new truck, and yet I went to Canadian Tire to grab something with my son, and ran in and came out, turned the truck on, and the truck was dead. I'm like, what? And I was just like, okay, so what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Do I have to call a tow truck? And I'm thinking, no, I'm going to call my cousin because he's not far from here. He can come boost me. So I send a text, and I'm like, can you do me a favor? Can you help me? This is where I am. Sure enough, he sends me a text back. He goes, I'm actually in that store. I'll be out in 2 minutes. What is the odds of that happening? But I didn't allow it to
serendipity.
Stress me out, freak out, start, oh my God, I got to call a tow truck now, and blah, 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 blah. I just called my cousin, and he was actually inside the store. So again, it just, like I said, I didn't react to it. I responded to it, and it was resolved almost immediately. So, and within a few minutes I was up and running again. So, it's these little things. When people are rush, you run into the bank and you're waiting there and you wait and you hear people huffing and puffing because someone's taking too long at the counter. Again, guys, just stop and breathe. Enjoy what's around you. Enjoy the fact that you're here. Live in the moment. Knowing that, we're in a very historical time here on Earth where we've never gone through this before. It's a pivotal time in all of the universe, and we're transcending into the love and light. So be that love and light where you're out there, because you are of the light if you're listening to the show. So, just find that love and know that if you love yourself and you love, this is about you finding yourself over the Mercury retrograde and knowing in the new year when you step in. Again, we don't come out till, I think, January 8th is when the retrograde is done, and it goes into shadow on the 9th. So, it's not a time to start relationships or take your relationship to another level. Just kind of keep it where it is, knowing that you're going to make it stronger so that if you want to take that relationship to another level, wait till the new year. Do it in the flow of energies, knowing that if you go against the energies, again, you're just throwing yourself off track, my friends. And that's with you, what you said, David, that it's all about, you don't want to get so far off track that it takes you forever to get back. Like, you want to be that person on that groove of the radio, or the needle on the record. And maybe you jump or skip, but you can get right back into the groove again and continue on with your soul's path.
Beautiful.
So, any last words? Because I know we've only got a few moments, and then we'll be off until next week.
Well, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure to be on your show. Thank you so much for the invitation. It was really great to, share things from my soul to other people's souls. Yeah. So that was really beautiful. And, just really wishing everybody an amazing holiday and really just swing out there as far as what 2017 can be for you. As you said, it's within this conscious evolutionary shift that we're in. And as people continue to wake up and really get their own true power and what they're capable of, there really is nothing stopping them. And I'm just super excited to see what people create in 2017.
Oh, you and I both, my dear. Thank you again, David. I really, really appreciate it. Happy holidays to all of those that are listening in. And I'll see you next week on Boxing Day, where we're going to be talking about recycling. What a perfect day to be talking about that. Have a wonderful week, my friends. Go within, love yourself, and reflect out to the world who you truly are. Tap into your soul's purpose, and have a wonderful week, my friends. Take care. Bye-bye.